My boyfriend has been weirdly obsessed with how perfect I am for his best friend, and I'm starting to think he's trying to push me into a relationship with him. It started around the 6-month mark of our relationship. Nothing dramatic, just small things I almost dismissed. We would be talking about literally anything, and he would find a way to pivot to his best friend. I said I loved hiking. He lit up and said his best friend hikes every single weekend, knows every trail in the county. I mentioned I wanted to adopt a dog someday. He said his best friend just rescued a golden retriever and was the most responsible pet owner he had ever seen. I told him I had been getting into cooking. His best friend apparently had a home kitchen setup that could rival a restaurant. Every single thing I expressed any enthusiasm about, his best friend was already doing it better and had been for years. At first I thought he was just proud of his friend. Some guys are like that. They hype up the people they love and it is genuinely sweet. So I let it go. I smiled and nodded and changed the subject and moved on. But it kept happening. Every conversation eventually looped back to him. Every hobby, every interest, every small preference I mentioned became a bridge to another story about how incredible his best friend was. It got to the point where I started editing what I said around him, choosing topics I knew would not open that door, which is not something you should ever have to do with someone you are supposed to feel comfortable with. I finally said something about it. I told him it was a little strange, that I felt like I was being compared to a checklist. He looked genuinely hurt and said he was just excited about his friendship and he did not realize he was doing it. He backed off for about a week, then it started again. That is when it got weirder. He started staging run-ins. We would make plans, just the two of us, and somehow his best friend would already be at the restaurant when we arrived. Always at the bar, always surprised to see us, always pulling up a chair before anyone invited him to. My boyfriend would order drinks, excuse himself to the bathroom, and be gone for 20 minutes, leaving me alone with his best friend at the table, every single time. And his best friend was always charming about it. Always funny, always attentive, always asking me questions like he had been given a list of things I cared about and was working through it. I brought it up again. He said I was reading into things. He said his best friend and I were just both in the same social orbit and it was not some coordinated effort. He seemed so calm and reasonable about it that I started to wonder if I actually was being paranoid. I let myself believe that for a while because it was easier than the alternative. Then 3 weeks ago, we were at home. Both of us had a few drinks, and he got quiet in that way people get when something has been sitting on them for a while. He looked at me and said, totally unprompted, that if we ever broke up, he thought I would be perfect for his best friend. He said it like it was a compliment, like he was doing me a favor by letting me know. I did not respond. I just looked at him. He seemed to realize how it landed and laughed it off and said he was just saying I was a great person. We went to bed and neither of us brought it up again, but I could not stop thinking about it because it did not feel like a compliment. It felt like something he had already thought through, like a plan that had been running quietly in the background for months while I was just living my life inside it. So I started going back through things quietly. I did not say a word to him. I went back through 6 months of conversations in my head. Every time he had described me to someone else, every time he had told me what his best friend was looking for in a relationship. He had mentioned it more than once in passing, said his best friend wanted someone adventurous, someone who loved animals, someone who actually knew how to have a real conversation, someone who was independent but still valued commitment. Word for word, those were the same qualities my boyfriend had told me he loved about me. Not similar, not in the same ballpark, word for word. He had not been falling for me on his own. He had been running me through a filter the entire time, checking boxes for someone else. I sat with that for 3 days. I did not confront him. I did not bring it up. I just watched. I paid attention to the staged run-ins. I paid attention to when he left the room. I paid attention to the texts he angled away from me and answered quickly. On the 4th day, I waited until things were calm. No drinks, no distractions. I sat across from him and I asked him one question. I said, "Does your best friend know you have been auditioning me for him?" He did not yell. He did not laugh it off. He just went completely still. And that silence told me everything I needed to know.